This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Hear that sound? That's the sound of a shoe dropping in Arizona in the Attorney General there, Chris Mays' prosecution of 18 co-conspirators who worked under or with Donald Trump to try to overturn the will of the people and a fake elector scheme. Jenna Ellis, yes, Jenna Ellis, the one who tearfully cried crocodile tears in Georgia back in October when she pled guilty in order to avoid jail time in the Fani Willis, Georgia Fulton County prosecution. She has now reached a cooperation deal with the Arizona Attorney General. Jenna Ellis knows where all the bodies are buried. She carried the bag for Rudy Giuliani and others. She was involved with Boris Epshteyn, who's still inside of Donald Trump's inner circle as a fixer, who was also indicted, one of the 18. Just to remind you, all the people she can now point the finger at in order to avoid her 9 felony counts in Arizona. She had a big incentive there. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Boris Epshteyn, John Eastman, Mike Roman, the election day coordinator for Donald Trump, who was the mule for the fake elector certificates themselves, and Jenna Ellis, just to name a few. And Jenna Ellis, who just barely avoided getting disbarred, one of the few that did. And I'll show you that, just to remind you who she is, I'll show you that clip of her when she pled guilty in Georgia. There were 4 or so that pled guilty. Sidney Powell, Ken Chesborough, Jenna Ellis, and others. They pled guilty, some to felonies, some to misdemeanors, all had a cooperation agreement. But Jenna Ellis is the one who's flipped the most. She's turned herself into a pretzel. She's decided if she knew then what she knows now, she would never have helped Donald Trump. And she knows she was helping to commit fraud. Let's just, so you get an understanding of who this Jenna Ellis is, let's play the clip from Georgia back in October.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people.
Okay, that Jenna Ellis. She is now under a cooperation agreement with Chris Mays, the Arizona Attorney General. And I've always said, watch the attorney generals. They are doing the laboring war against the entire inner circle of Donald Trump, including Boris Epshteyn. Remember that name. He's been in the room for every criminal case. He's a major consultant and consigliere for Donald Trump. And he was an unindicted co-conspirator in Jack Smith's election interference case. People forget there were 5 or 6 people who were unindicted co-conspirators. Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Boris Epshteyn, etc. Here, the attorney generals in Wisconsin, and in this case Arizona, have cast a wide net and have indicted for the second time Mike Roman. He was indicted in Georgia. Rudy Giuliani indicted in Georgia. Mark Meadows indicted in Georgia. John Eastman indicted in Georgia. And now you've got Jenna Ellis, who is going to cooperate. Now, what does that mean? Let's talk about cooperation agreements for a minute. What does it mean? She pled not guilty back in June. but almost the 9 felony counts against her in Arizona. But almost immediately, she was in discussion. She was the weakest link, let's be frank. She was the one that the prosecutors and the investigators for the Attorney General's office in Arizona were leaning on. They need one to flip. And then, as I've said before, it'll become like the International House of Pancakes. Flip, 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 flip. You got to get one. Fani Willis, she had 8 fake electors, and then she had 4 attorneys, and she'll probably get more as that case moves forward to trial. In Arizona, she just pled, Chris Mays just got Jenna Ellis to plead guilty in June. This is only August, and already she's heading for the exit. Jenna Ellis. In order to get the cooperation agreement, she had to give a recorded, what we call a proffer to the government. It's through lawyers. She brought another lawyer, and she makes a proffer, meaning this is what my testimony would be at trial against all the other co-conspirators, and I am sure Donald Trump. Now, whether Chris Mays decides to indict Donald Trump, given the immunity decision that came out of the United States Supreme Court, it matters not a whit at this moment. This is about bringing to justice all the other people around the apex, with Donald Trump at the hub of this wheel of conspiracy, and bringing them to justice, because none of them have immunity, and none of them have executive privilege, and none of them have attorney-client privilege, or if they have, they're waiving it. Now, she has to give her proffer. Now, I'm sure Donald Trump's going to, attorney-client privilege. But if there's a crime, fraud exception to attorney-client privilege, it's being applied here. If Jenna Ellis now believes that she was a unwitting or witting participant in a crime or fraud on behalf of Donald Trump, in giving her legal advice, and carrying the bag for Rudy Giuliani, for filing all these fake elector lawsuits, which she ran, for holding these meetings with Arizona legislators, these fake hearings. Remember these with Rudy Giuliani in the hot weather with the hair dye dripping down his face? Remember those back in the day when Rudy Giuliani used to hold press conferences at the wrong Four Seasons? We thought, the Four Seasons Hotel, that's a nice place for a press conference. No, the Four Seasons Landscaping and Gravel Company. And always next to him was this younger, blonde lawyer woman. That was Jenna Ellis. Over and over and over again. We'll show pictures. And now, she's the kind of person that knows where everything is. She had, I almost said intimate conversations with Rudy Giuliani. She had very close and secret and confidential conversations with Rudy Giuliani. She's going to have to reveal. I'm sure she had conversations with Boris Epshteyn, with Mike Roman, the election day coordinator for Donald Trump, with John Eastman, one of the architects with Ken Chesborough, about the what they call the Green Bay sweep, or the use of fake electors. Ken Chesborough is going to have to cooperate too. Jenna Ellis is not going to be the last one to cooperate with Arizona. She's going to end up cooperating with Michigan, with Wisconsin, and all the other attorney generals. I've said this before. The attorney generals are leading the charge to do the cleanup behind the federal prosecutors. And they're going to accomplish more when it comes to the co-conspirators, I assure you, than even Fani Willis can in Georgia and the federal prosecutors are doing against Donald Trump and others. I mean, let's be frank. Jack Smith brought one case against Donald Trump in D.C. He's the only defendant. Others were named as unindicted co-conspirators, and he can still get around to indicting them. But the ones that are out there on the front lines as the mainline prosecutors are the attorney generals of these states. And Jenna Ellis and her briefcase and her information and what's in her head and the conversations that she had, she made that proffer. It was recorded. It was sworn, meaning it was under oath. And she is willing and is in a sign on the dotted line that she will continue to cooperate with the Arizona prosecutors as a condition of them dropping the charges against her. And if she ever screws up and has buyer's remorse and decides no after she's been pummeled by MAGA, by Donald Trump and everybody else, I was coerced by the attorney general, they'll just reinstate the charges against her. So for those out there that are wondering, what's to prevent her from lying and saying nothing happened or not fully cooperating? Going to jail on 9 felony counts, along with 17 other people in Arizona. That kind of makes a person more honest. We don't trust but verify, as we like to say. Trust, but you're going to be a felon and you're going to go to jail for a long time. And you can tell from looking at her, she's not going to do well in jail. And she knows that. So she'd like to find a way to avoid it. So that's what we got here. We got the Jenna Ellis show. 1 of 18 has decided now to flip. There'll be others. I don't know if it's 3, 4, 5, or 6. Ken Chesborough's going to flip. We know, thumbs up on that. We know there are certain ones that'll never flip. Rudy Giuliani will go into the bunker and before he ever flips on Donald Trump. Mike Roman, true believer, same thing. Mark Meadows, at one time I thought he would flip. Maybe if they squeeze him hard enough, he will. Boris Epstein will never, and John Eastman won't either. Because they're all hoping that Donald Trump gets elected and restored to the presidency. Not that helps them with the attorney general positions. They could still, the people involved in the conspiracy to overthrow democracy are still suffering the consequences now, appropriately. Jeff Clark, who weaponized the Department of Justice on behalf of Donald Trump, he's about to lose his law license. Rudy Giuliani lost his law license. Nothing Donald Trump can do about that. Can't wave a magic wand and restore all these people's liberty and privileges and licenses. That's not happening, especially at the state court level and the state enforcement level. At best, he can give a federal pardon, a federal commutation of a sentence or clemency, but not state. So Jenna Ellis did the math. It's not hard. It's not hard math. It's not a calculus, college level calculus. It's basic, simple fourth grade arithmetic. She does not want to go to jail on 9 felony counts and fall on her sword for Donald Trump. She's young. She would like to keep her law license. She'd like to have a career after this. Right now her main career is that she's a recovering Trumpian and goes around telling everybody how she made a major mistake. And now she's trying to do penance as a result of that. But she needs to stay out of jail. And so she's going to enter into that cooperation agreement. Now, I don't know. I told you the 4 or 5 that'll never follow her into the cooperation agreement world. But there's another, 12 that may, including the fake electors themselves. That's what happened in Georgia. In Georgia, most of the fake electors, except for the ones that were like high up in the Georgia Republican Party and were actually elected officials, all the rest of them were like, I'm not going to jail for this guy. Where do I sign? I sign on the dotted line. Ken Chesborough, he flipped he flipped faster than a 2-day-old pancake. That's how fast he flipped. All right? And Sidney Powell, the same thing. But Jenna Ellis has always been seen as an easy mark by the prosecutors, given that teary-eyed, boo-hoo, woe is me, I was misled, thing that she did in Georgia when she pled guilty. We'll continue to follow it all in the MeidasTouch network. We have to. We have no choice. Democracy's at stake. And if you want to, you can help us with this network. It's a independent network without any outside investors. We're building this network literally with our bare hands. We're like flying the plane while we're building it, and you're helping us build it. Otherwise, it's just like me talking into a microphone and my computer. Otherwise, I know you're out there because we connect. I've met you on the streets. I've talked to you in chats and in emails. I've seen you on our Patreon, Legal AF Patreon. We just had a Zoom town hall with like 2,000 people on it. I saw all of your shiny, happy faces, smiling faces. So I know this matters. It matters to me and it matters to you. Free subscribe. I know I'm not stuttering. Free subscribe to the MeidasTouch network. Go out. And if you like this kind of content and all of our content providers and all the podcasts and all of that, hit subscribe. Done. That helps us. We're going to get, if I have to pull us over the finish line myself with my bare hands, we're going to get to 3 million before Election Day. I want to get it before Labor Day at this rate because we're very close. We're like 30,000 away. Very close. And that matters because it keeps us on the air and keeps the wheels spinning here and the lights on. And then you can follow our podcast, Legal AF. Where's my Legal AF? See? Legal AF, the podcast. It's every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this YouTube channel. We curate the top 4 or 5 stories at the intersection of law and politics. We bring it to you right here, the only way we know how. We don't blow smoke. We don't blow sunshine. We're not censored. No big corporate media tells me what to say. I don't even know what I'm about to say before I get on the microphone sometimes. We're unfiltered, we're unplugged, and that's it, man. And so you got that. We got that specially curated podcast Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesdays, me and Karen Friedman Ignifilo. Saturdays, me and Ben Mysalis. And then audio podcasts. Remember those? Pick us up on audio podcast platforms. Just plug in Legal AF to your favorite platform. I don't know why I'm tongue-tied today. It's a long day. Favorite platform, and there we will be. And so until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.